So Jasmine Crockett has been in the news recently, and I've been wanting to do a video reacting to one of her interviews, and it's taken me a minute to do that. I am digging through the one that she did with Amanda Shields. She's also viral and trending on social media right now because of different comments that she's made. And more recently, she's been trending because of a comment that she's made about the role of the police force and what they are there to do and not do. And there's also another conversation of the backdrop that she is using when she is in the politically charged conversation. She is showing her shoe closet, and so that has gotten a lot of traction on social media because as a politician, as a public figure who's speaking about very serious topics, is it appropriate to have your shoe collection on display for everyone to see? Because one, I don't necessarily mind this because I know that reality stars and socialites, this is what they do. They are showing off their wealth in the form of the handbags that they've collected and the shoes that they've collected. So if you are a woman who's seeing this and you're into fashion, you're going to be drawn into Jasmine because of what she's displaying in her background. And that is kind of another way to get people who would not otherwise pay attention to this content interested in what is happening in this clip. So on one hand, I understand the kind of subtle messaging that is being sent when she has the shoe collection in her background, and also that it's a way to draw in new people who otherwise would not engage with this content. However, for the people who are there for the political commentary, this can be a little bit distracting because it's one, showing that she values wealth over her education or her mind, because most people who are commenting on political topics, they have either some minimal sort of decorations behind them, or they have a bookshelf showcasing the books that they're reading or other things that are important to them, right? So usually when you see an NBA commentator, he's gonna have jerseys on the back of the wall or pictures of famous shots or whatever from different sporting events and all of that stuff, right? So whatever is in their background is going to be relevant to their conversation. So with me, I do have books on my cubbyhole behind me, and in my previous videos you couldn't see the books that I have because they were kind of, my body is blocking it basically. So I moved it over to the right side so that you can see my book collection. And I previously got rid of the collection that I had growing up, so I've had to restart my collection of books, and so that's what I've accumulated so far. The Harry Potter books, I've always had those, and then there's a few educational books, and then there's mostly novels back there. So that would be really weird if I'm trying to do political commentary and you just see a bunch of shoes back there. And so I can understand why people are outraged, especially if you are not someone who cares about fashion and you just do the basics. So I can understand why that would be off-putting to see someone displaying so openly the wealth that they have while trying to advocate for people who have less money than them. So I can't understand the double standards. Okay, so let's transition into the clip of her talking about the police force. Why I wanted to comment on this is because I did a video recently recapping and giving my thoughts on an interview that Whitney Webb did with Peter McCormick. If I'm not saying his name correctly, please let me know in the comment section below. But anyway, in that interview, they talked about basically the surveillance state and people coming up with different apps and programs so that they can monitor everything and eventually be able to predict when people do things. I find that problematic because I don't agree with the different ways to go about preventing crime. So let me just play the clip of what Jasmine says and we can go from there.
I want to be clear that, like, law enforcement isn't to prevent crime. Law enforcement solves crime, okay? That is what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to solve crimes, not necessarily prevent them from happening, per se.
So what everyone is reacting to is the line where she says that the police force is not there to prevent crime. And so what people have been saying in the comment sections of different videos that I've seen on this is that that's why you have cops patrolling. They are there to deter people from committing crime. So if you are about to rob a jewelry store or something like that and you see a bunch of cops in front of a store, you're less likely to go in there and commit the crime of robbing the store because you see the police there. However, you may just not do it that time and go back when you don't see cops, right? So yeah, it deters you for a little bit, but there's always ways to get around it. You just study the cops and figure out when they're not there, and then you commit the crime, right? And so obviously I'm not encouraging crime, but I'm just saying that the point of cops patrolling is to prevent people and deter people from committing crimes. So in terms of what I said in my video, I'm arguing that the police are at a disadvantage when it comes to preventing crime. So really, if they are patrolling, they are limited to what they can see with their eyes and what they can hear. So if they see someone who is acting suspiciously, they can observe them for a little bit, see what they're going to do, and then intervene if necessary. So the other way that they can prevent crimes is if they have documented evidence showing that someone is pre-planning something. So if they are able to collect evidence that suspect Y is planning to commit a crime at this location, and they have all of this evidence from whatever has been posted on social media, people leaving tips and all of that stuff, that is one way that they can prevent crime. And what I'm also arguing against in my clip is this idea of using an algorithm to predict whether or not people will commit crimes. I think it's something different if you have a career criminal who has committed crimes and has been arrested 14 times for robbery. Obviously, common sense tells you that that person is more likely to commit another crime. I'm against the algorithm being used against average citizens who have not committed crime. So say, for example, you rage bait, you post nasty stuff on social media, but you haven't actually committed a crime or physically harmed someone. I'm against an algorithm coming into play and saying, hey, if this person gets into an altercation in the real world, they are 70% likely to resort to violence to resolve that situation. So we need to be on the lookout for this person. We need to be monitoring them and prevent them from committing that crime. I'm against that sort of behavior. So to continue on what the role of the police force is, I think there's really three situations that we see the police force acting in. So one, they're patrolling the streets, which we've already talked about. Two, they're preventing crime just before they happen or in the midst of a crime. And three, they're coming onto the scene after the crime has already occurred and it's pretty much over. So they are coming in a very reactive state and having to put together the pieces after the fact. And so I think that we're more exposed to the second two options, especially with TV shows about police forces and cops like we see in Law and Order SVU or Chicago PD. In those situations, because it's a TV show, we don't see them just patrolling and waiting for crime to happen to intervene. They are usually called into the scene of a crime and they have to figure out how to prevent the next crime that that person is going to commit. So it's very reactive. I think a blanket statement saying that they do not prevent crime is a little bit misleading, but I also understand that there are limitations in terms of how to prevent crime while also working after the fact to solve a crime and prevent those perpetrators from committing future crimes. So yeah, I just wanted to come on and share my thoughts on that, especially since I had just talked about that in the video that I did on Whitney Webb. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section, whether or not the police is there to prevent, or are they just reactive, or are they there to do all of the above. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.